The City of Gold is bankrupt. That's the long and short of it. And don't take our word for it. The finance minister says so. Enoch Godongwana has even instructed Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero to halt a 10 billion rand wage hike for municipal workers. It's a move that may well come back to bite the beleaguered administration. Here with the very latest is News 24 Metro journo Alex Patrick.
I mean, I would like to wake up tomorrow and have R1 million in my account, but just because I put that down on paper doesn't mean it's actually going to come into my account. Simply put, they're just not collecting enough money.
Finally, later in the show, US airmen touched down in apartheid South Africa for a somewhat covert missile test on this day in South African history, our regular segment. And in Rauby's Pointless Braai quiz, what's the name of the proudly SA chocolate, the production of which has now come to a halt? We'll give you that answer a little later.
This is The Lead, and this is the South African Story, with your host, Graeme Robenheimer.
Moving to our top story today, well, ding dong, Jozi is broke. It can't be breaking news, though, because News 24 star Metro journalist Alex Patrick has been heralding this in her reporting for the longest time. In fact, she's live with us now from our Randburg studios. Alex, what an introduction. How are you?
I'm well, Graeme. How are you doing?
Can't complain. Look, let's get into the thrust of things. Here's this letter penned somewhat covertly, secretly from Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, penned directly to Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero just last month. It's since been leaked to the media. The DA is having a field day with it. But lay out nice and succinctly here, Alex. What does that letter say from Treasury?
Oh my goodness. No, you're right. Exactly. It just sits in the hands of the DA, who are campaigning heavily at the moment. Basically, the letter is very kind because what it's saying is do this or else. The minister has the power right now to put the city under administration. And that is why I'm saying it is actually a very kind letter. He's saying get this in order, or A, I'm going to take away the funding. So that's your national treasury funding from our taxes. Each municipality gets given a bite of that. If you don't do that, financial administration and worst case scenario administration, which is actually the dissolution of the council. I say worst case, and I doubt that's going to happen because, as you know, in 6 months' time, we have an election.
Let's go through the numbers, right? And I think this has been super important when we're talking about revenue intake for the city in order for it to be profitable, and while at the same time still having to service the loans, because we've seen now that Joburg has been relying on these long-term loans for the longest time. What does that letter set out in terms of the numbers as we understand it in relation to the last budget that was passed? What are the figures that we're talking about here? Billions, right?
Oh, billions. And actually, the minister is calling them flat out lying. He's saying, what you've given us is a lie. We know it's a lie. Fix it. So he's put down here that they are owing 25 plus billion, and they only have about 4 billion cash in hand. Essentially, if this was a business, they would be filing for bankruptcy.
Absolutely. They would be selling off their assets left, right and center, Alex, to just try and, sort of break even again. One of the central reoccurring issues, and we've just sort of alluded to it, is the fact that it can't get ratepayers or all of the ratepayers involved to cough up in time to sort of eat away at its expenditures. Why is this simply not happening? It's been a long-term issue. You've consistently raised this as one of the central issues that's plagued Joburg for, the last more than a decade, right?
Exactly. So experts are calling it a death spiral because it really is like a circle. The money that is coming in is not being collected in full. So they are expecting to collect, I think for City Power, it's something like 23 billion. They're only getting 19. So they're not collecting enough money. And that's to do with their financials. But at the same time, a huge group of residents are not paying their rates anymore, because a lot of them are going on solar power. A lot of them have boreholes because they can't rely on the infrastructure in Johannesburg. So that market is no longer paying the city. And others are just simply withholding their cash. So they're not bringing in enough cash. They're owing bulk suppliers. So Eskom and Rand Water don't care how much you bring in. If they give you X amount of water, they need X amount of money. It doesn't matter if 35% is lost through leaks. That's our fault. That's our problem. So you still got to pay them, but you're not bringing in enough revenue. And that is why also this minister points out in his letter, the readjusted budget is an unfunded budget, which basically means that you are not bringing enough money into it to cover your expenses. And in terms of the Municipal Financial Management Act, that is illegal.
Right. The idea that I've been getting, and you've alluded to, like these experts, we often cite Professor van den Heever from the Wits School of Governance, as well as, activists from the Water Can Initiative, various, voices that have had their say in some major stories that have concerned Joburg in the past couple of months or so. And one of the big reoccurring things is that the budget sets out how much money it could bring in terms of revenue, and it's using that as its projections. But I mean, that is like putting a Band-Aid on a gashing, sword wound in the side of your stomach. It doesn't mean just because you say so, it's going to come true, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would like to wake up tomorrow and have R1 million in my account, but just because I put that down on paper doesn't mean it's actually going to come into my account. Simply put, they're just not collecting enough money.
Yeah, and of course with these loans that they got to pay back, that eats into any potential gains that any entity would make here. DA Mayoral hopeful Helen Zille had this press conference yesterday where she extolled, several more political virtues in regards to this letter in question. What has she vowed to do here for the time being?
No, exactly. Well, she's vowed to take them to court, and basically, as the Municipal Financial Management Act, MFMA points out that the accounting officers actually could face the might of the law for this, and she vows to hold those people to account if they do not fix their finances.
So she also basically said this municipal manager, Floyd Brink, may have flouted the PFMA as well?
Yeah. So basically, you can't put a city in jail, but you can put a person in jail. And he is the accounting manager. He is the person who stands in place of the city. He is the castle. So he would be the first one to fall as the head of the city. So any finances that come and go through his office. In some ways, he's even more powerful than the mayor. Then it's any heads of these entities. So that's your CEOs of Johannesburg Water, Pick It Up, City Power, etc. But he is number one. That's where the money goes.
Okay, let's move to this because I think this is actually the key issue here. Minister Godongwana has flagged this deal that Morero had essentially signed with Municipal Union SAMWU ahead of the G20 summit last year, which Joburg famously scrambled to clean up to ensure that it could welcome, global leaders over and still look like a fairly workable city, right? And it struck this deal to basically bring wages for municipal workers in line with what they should be owing. That's at least according to SAMWU. And that over the next 2 years, this would require 10 billion rand. Where on earth is Joburg going to get this? Is essentially what Godongwana is saying, right?
Well, exactly. And that's what makes this unfunded, because they've just popped on an amount. It's obviously, it's layered in terms of how it's going to be paid back. But they've popped the first tranche on for this financial year. So that's adding on another, let's say, 3 billion, which we simply don't have. This is an agreement that does need to be honored. That is, nobody's saying that the workers cannot get that money. So basically, I think it was 95, they found that the Johannesburg municipal workers were not earning the equivalent of what other municipal workers were earning, and they vowed to basically repay them. But now we're sitting at a situation where we don't have that money. It's 10.3 billion that we need to find from somewhere.
And then we saw from the mayor in the meantime basically telling journalists, issuing a statement basically to say, don't worry, residents, everything is fine. Coming from a mayor who, by the way, on News 24, rated himself 8 to 10. Not 8 out of 10, 8 to 10 out of 10.
I think against what I was supposed to perform on, which in the main is focusing on the water infrastructure, by law enforcement, we can rate ourselves at least, 8 to 10? I think we're getting there. More time was needed for us to get through some of the hurdles.
Alex, do you agree with that self-performance rating? Self-appraisal?
Now you're putting me on the spot. I have to work with these people. No, I don't agree with that. And I don't think any resident would agree with it. Even if he did his utmost, the fact that our roads are breaking, we have no water, we have no electricity, even if he was doing the most, you can't give him an 8. Not the way the city's been run. You are the head of the city. We've still got, weird tenders going out. That's happening under his tenure. He wasn't there 50 years ago when the pipes were put in, but he's here now, and he's not doing anything about that. So no, 8 is, I wouldn't put anybody at an 8 at this point.
And I mean, you will get commentators who'll come and go and say, it's not just the ANC that's held stewardship in Johannesburg in more recent, years, but they've definitely had the most number of mayors and ANC administrations have definitely been, in terms of their numbers, more so than any other political party. So a lot of the responsibility will unfortunately fall to the ANC to answer to here as we move to the municipal polls now set down for early November. How is SAMWU as a union responding to Godongwana's letter? I found it interesting, and I saw the commenting from regional leaders with the union that they feel like Godongwana and the DA are speaking from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, they did say that, basically citing, because the DA did actually take them to court. And they said that what he said is mirroring what the DA has said. So instead of saying maybe that's because that's the law, it might be a collusion. Obviously, the DA deny that. But they're saying basically it's overreach, even though he's a minister. And they feel that only a court of law can actually set that agreement aside because it has been signed. I'm sure others would see otherwise. But basically, if the city does obey what the minister has said, they're threatening action. And that's about 48,000 people in our city.
So hopefully there would be, a fair level of intervention before it had to reach that particular stage. I mean, nobody wants to see, mass strike action in a city that is, perpetually crumbling. What needs to happen in order for that not to happen? The Labour Court would surely have to decide things here?
I think so. And I think that, they've already kind of ruled in favor of SAMWU. But I think that if that money didn't come into the workers' hands, I think that there would be a problem, definitely.
The ANC in Greater Joburg's also called for a meeting between the mayor and Godongwana, but I think that's already been arranged. Is that right?
According to the statement sent out yesterday, the don't panic, everything's fine statement, because we've seen now that this letter was put through about 2 weeks ago. So we've only seen it from yesterday. They've been sitting on this letter for 2 weeks. So when asked, what have you done in the last 2 weeks? They said, no, we asked for an urgent meeting. We don't know if that meeting has been, if a date has been set yet. It didn't seem like it yesterday. And you're right. Today they are sitting, the mayoral committee. So that's your MMCs. The committee basically appointed to head up all the entities are sitting today, basically to answer to this letter and help the mayor, give a proper response.
Yeah. let's sort of end off here, and this is moving into like speculatory territory of what ifs or what could be. And there's been talk of a possible dissolve of council if, the municipality had to be placed under administration. And look how that worked out for Mangaung, by the way, in Bloemfontein. They still have an overtime, perpetual financial crisis there. I mean, something that we've previously heard and talked about here on The Lead. That's by the by. But I mean, placing under administration ahead of the elections, you basically, the ANC would lose power almost automatically here. But that would also require dissolving council and then having to have fresh polls before the actual scheduled polls, right? That's a bit of a mess if that had to be.
Exactly. And I think that's why this letter is very kind, because it's saying, listen, get your finances in order because this can happen right now. According to the law, desolation would mean dissolution would mean 3 months. They have to get a new council. So we would all go to polls in 3 months. And that would mean that the 6-month election probably wouldn't take place. It would be a major disaster. It would be egg on the face for the ANC. I don't think there's political will for that. I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah. What do we need to look forward to next in terms of this current crisis, if you will? It's just another sort of peg in the overall what the hell in Joburg, right?
What more can go wrong? Well, Morero is going to be talking to us at the end of the day, and we'll wait to hear what he says. It's going to be more of don't panic, don't panic. Don't tell anyone either, because we don't want others to panic. Everybody, it's fine. Just keep paying us. It's fine.
Yeah. I don't know, man. This is like nobody could have foretold or written the story as it sort of panned out as we speak, right? It's crazy times. Alex, thanks so much for coming on The Lead and explaining everything. I really do appreciate it. Last time we spoke about the possible monument to poor service delivery in Joburg. What are we calling this one?
Oh, goodness. I don't want to swear on your show. It's not a nice one. Sorry. I'll keep that to myself.
Yeah, the King's sanction, the King's herald, the King's letter of poor service delivery. But anyway,
something like that.
Something like that. Alex, we'll chat again soon. Thanks so much, Ab. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Graeme.
Looking for a smarter weekend scroll? The Weekender is your ultimate guide to bold stories, sharp opinion, and a fresh lens on life in Mzansi. From exclusive interviews and powerful essays to wine picks, playlists, and pop culture gems, it's your perfect weekend read all in one place, landing every Saturday on News 24. And finally,
Ending off now with On This Day in SA History. That's courtesy the SA History Online database. Well, on this very day, it's the 7th of May 1960. 33 US airmen touched down in Durban for a major long-range rocket strike test. Led by Lieutenant Colonel Spencer Morgan, the 24 crew and 9 technicians were ultimately meant to stay put in the coastal city for about a week. The plan was to test fire the rocket from Florida's Cape Canaveral into the Indian Ocean. This was around the vicinity of Prince Edward Island. That's around 1,800 kilometers offshore from Durban. The airmen were there to oversee missile recovery operations in the splash zone. It all came at the height of the US Cold War era space race, and right as the world began to condemn apartheid South Africa more than ever before. It is not abundantly clear whether this test ultimately worked out, but the ordeal is indicative of a long-standing defense and arms factor that kept Washington and Pretoria strategic allies for the next more than 2 decades. In Rauby's Pointless Braai quiz for today, what's the name of the proudly SA chocolate, the production of which has now come to a halt? That's the beloved Sweetie Pie. Well, crafted by the local Bayers Chocolates Company, which Woolworths has now cut ties with as of last year, which Woolies now argues came after it discovered Bayers was supplying its competitors with similar Woolies exclusive products. Bayers, which is now in liquidation, supplied Woolies with the famed Chuckles Chocs for about 30 years. To read more on the story, check out Nick Wilson's Woolies Claps Back at Bayer's Sweetie Pies Run Out article on the front page of our News 24 business section. If this was your answer all along, congrats, you win a sweetie pie. I wish I could give you some, but apparently they are flying off the shelves these days. So perhaps get your hands on one of those boxes before they become obsolete. Thanks so much for tuning into The Lead this week. We'll see you same time, same place, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights next week at 7 p.m. Until then, have a fantastic weekend. Unfortunately, it's not a long one, but look after yourself wherever you find yourself. And yeah, I'll see you around that braai. My name's Graeme Robenheimer, and so long as there's trusted news first, we'll have The Lead on News 24.